Welcome back. Now we will talk about the second part of our lecture. We will talk about biosecurity risk assessment and what's the importance of risk assessment and how we can do the risk assessment for our laboratory. And this is a major component before we establish a laboratory biosecurity system. This course designed and developed also by Sandia National Laboratory. Today we'll talk about different key messages. We will talk about the definition of risk assessment, which is it's a procedure to analyze the likelihood and consequence for an adverse event. And also we will talk about the biosecurity risk assessment. We talk about characterization, security risk in our laboratory. And also for the outcome of risk assessment in biosecurity, it will be different from each institution to other institution, and even it will be different from lab to lab, even inside the institution. And also the risk assessment should be due for all assets and adversary and also vulnerability inside the institution to be a comprehensive and very accurate. And the most important thing, we should do the risk assessment before establishing this system to define the relative security risk and to guide our mitigation measures to the direct risk to make short for time and money and to have the perfect measurement in our system. We will talk about the WHO definition for laboratory biosecurity, which is a set of measures that to prevent risk of intentional removal, even theft of available medical material inside our institution. And this measurement, it can be operational measures like SOPs, policy, how they can get the information to our biological material. Even it could be a facility features like doors, guards, even the camera. And also we'll talk about the agents, which we'll call it now the assets. And this is preventive measures. It should be to reduce all the risk relative to our biological material and to prevent the theft or intentional release for this biological material to the community. Now we will talk about the biosecurity risk assessment, which is an analytical procedure designed to characterize risk in our laboratory. And this characterization should be goes to characterize the agent factor, how they can transfer about the infectious dose, how they can affect the people, and how they can affect the community outside the institution. And also we should characterize the consequences for this agent, how it can affect our people, our population, and even our economy in our system and our country. And this is analytical procedure is very important to establish before we thinking about biosecurity management system, to define the gaps and the negative about each component in our institution, even it was operational or facility, even it was about the personnel management system. And we talk about the laboratory biosecurity assessment, we talk about characterization in three major components. We talk about the assets and what we have inside our institution, and this is determined by the material control and accountability, and what type of agent and what type of toxin we have inside our laboratory. And also we talk about the adversary, who can attack our institution and who can intrude into our facility and make a theft for our biological material, even to have released them outside the institution. And also we'll talk about the vulnerability in our institution to define the gaps and what component we should have other mitigation measures also for them, and to have a whole system for our biosecurity management system in our laboratory and our institution. And when we talk about risk assessment, it's very important to do before the first step, because we need to guide our mitigation measures, like the physical security, which part of our protected area is needed for other measures for mitigation, like vents or guard. Maybe sometimes we need a camera or a sensitive doors, and sometimes we need to guide our money and our effort to the exact risk in our institution. And this could be done just by risk assessment and define which gaps we have in our institution and what other measures we need to do it to establish to have a comprehensive risk assessment. And when we talk about risk assessment, it's considered by defining the likelihood and what the factor can affect the likelihood of adverse event. How can he could happen, and also the factor that can affect the consequence of this event. And sometimes we should have the biosecurity risk assessment. We are concerned about the intentional adverse event, and sometimes how we can prevent the likelihood of this event, and sometimes we should have to prevent the consequence for this event. And when we talk about risk characterization, now we will talk about the three major components. We talk about assets, and also vulnerability, and our adversary. The first part, we will talk about assets. And this is very important to gather all the information about all the biological material and toxins in our institution, and where is the toxin is located, and who is responsible for this material. And now we talk about biological material, we should now call it the assets. And this is very related to the part of material control and accountability, to have a comprehensive and a rigid inventory system that can define what type of valuable biological material and to be separated from other random biological material. And this is to determine the target for our adversary inside our laboratory. And when we talk about the characterization, we should think about the likelihood and what's the factor can affect the likelihood, how we can adversary come to inside our institution and attack this laboratory and have release or theft this material. And this we should think about the difficulty of acquiring this agent. Is it available in the environment or not? Because sometimes we cannot find it in environment, it will be valuable for an adversary and encourage him to attack this laboratory and steal this valuable biological material. And also we should think about the difficulty of processing. It will be easy to process this agent. It can be practiced outside laboratory, it can use in other institution or not. And also we should think about the difficulty of disseminating, how they can spread this agent to the community. Is it easy to make harm for many people outside the institution? And this is very related to the agent, like the route of infections. As we know, sometimes when the agent is routed by inhalation, it's very critical and it will be very easy to spread this harm agent to the people. And this is very important to determine before establish a security system, because we should know about the difficulty of acquiring and processing and also the disseminating for this agent. And also we should have now characterization for the score sequence. And what if this agent was theft or released to the committee, and what the type of effect can make it. Sometimes it can make for the population, and sometimes for the economy, and for the public perception, especially for the institution, and sometimes it could affect the facility operation. And many cases, many of the institutions, there was a steal or theft for biological material from outside this institution and make a worse reputation, and this institution was stopped from operation and also stopped work for this biological material because they don't have a rigid and comprehensive laboratory biosecurity system. And this is very important when we talk about assets. Now we will talk about the characterization for adversary. As we talk, there is many examples for adversary. We have major three type of adversary. There can people outside the institution come inside the institution and make harm just for theft or make sometimes fire or something like that. But the other type is adversary attack the institution to steal the biological material and make harm and for the other people. And also we will talk about the adversary from inside the institution is very important. We will talk it later. And we talk about the adversary characterization, we talk about something we call it threat assessment. And there's like three major components we talk about adversary characterization. We will talk about motives, means, and opportunity. And when we talk about motives, what's the motive for this adversary to come inside the institution and attack the institution? Sometimes it's political background, or sometimes for competition reason, and sometimes because for revenge from other people. And this is we should have this motive in our consideration when we talk about biosecurity. And also the means, we talk about how they will attack this institution. They will attack it from outside or inside, and sometimes they will use other method to attack the institution. And this is very important when we talk about physical security, how they can prevent the outsider to come outside to inside our institution. And also we talk about the opportunity. When and where they will attack our institution, and how we will attack institution. There will be a physical intrusion, or it will be information intrusion, or it will be about someone inside the institution who will theft this biological material and get outside the institution. And this is very important. We talk about determining the likelihood and consequence for biosecurity risk assessment. And when we talk about the adversary, we should consider about the insider person. And this is person who know everything about biosecurity and who get the authorization to have access to this biological material and toxin. And also, this is very dangerous and very sensitive case because he know all the components of our laboratory biosecurity system. And also, when we have an outsider, he is a person who doesn't have any information and doesn't have any authorized access to this biological agent. And when we talk about adversary characterization, we should not forget that the insider is much risky and much make threat for our solution more than the outsider. And for the insider person, he gets the means because he got the authorization, and also who know the opportunity when he will attack the laboratory or our institution to get this information. And we talk about also that the motives, it doesn't will be different than the other outsider, because the outsider, he got the same motives, but different means and opportunity because he doesn't have the authorized access for this material or any information about biological material inside the institution. And this is the major difference between the outsider and insider. And also we'll talk about the last part of our vulnerability. It will be about characterization for the gaps and what the negatives and what we have inside our institution. And when we talk about physical security, we should have determined the gaps in this security system. We talk about it's about the guards, is they are trained, about the doors, it will be have a surveillance camera or not. And when we talk about the personnel management, we talk about the security background before hiring them, and also we should have determined who will get the access control and for how long and when they will update this access control. And we talk about the material control accountability, we will talk about the inventory system. When we will update this inventory system and who get the access for this information. And we'll talk about the gaps for transportation security. We should determine about the internal and external transportation. Who will be lead for this transportation process? And who will be tracking this biological material transfer from site, outside, even inside the laboratory, inside the institution. And also we shall not forget the gaps in the information security, and we will talk about how they can intrusion to our system by hacking or other information. And this is very important when we have characterization for our vulnerability in our institution to determine all these gaps on all these pillars. And thank you.